The Fantasy Six-Pack Hour. With your hosts, Joe Bond.
You're awful.
And A.J. Applegarth.
It's Sin Shu Chu. It's a mouthful.
All right. Welcome back to the Fantasy Six-Pack Hour. My name is Joe Bond, founder of FantasySixPack.net. With me, as usual, co-host AJ Applegarth. What's up, man? AJ, you might be muted, or I can't hear you for some reason.
Yep, I'm muted.
There we go. Awesome. So how you doing, man?
I'm doing well. So yes, live broadcast. Glad I can be technologically advanced here for this. But yeah, no, I'm good.
All right, man. So we got a lot to talk about. We're gonna do our AFC North preview tonight, but first, man, let's talk about MLB, and they're coming back. 60-game season. It's going to start roughly the middle of July, it sounds like. Middle to end of July. Although very interesting is cases are climbing in Florida, Texas, California, and Arizona. Perfect.
Not surprising. Not at all.
Perfect timing. So very interesting, but that all thrown out the side. I don't want to talk about that. What is your thoughts on handling your fantasy baseball seasons?
I mean, the only one I'm really in at this point, I think, is ours. So I would say we're playing, I think. But I'm pretty balls deep in all my football stuff at this point. I'm over baseball, even though I'm wearing a baseball shirt. Had to rep my new Father's Day gift from a beautiful wife. So happy belated Father's Day to you, Joe, and to everybody else out there listening.
You too, man.
But yeah, it's I don't know. I mean, I am kind of excited to watch baseball, but fantasy wise, it's too hard to try to figure out how to do this in 60 games and 6 weeks worth of a regular season, or just don't have playoffs. So yeah, there's a lot going on with it. Yeah,
I've been talking with a couple of leagues that I run. One, the Fantasy Six-Pack League, with a couple of friends from back in the day when we started it, and a Dynasty League that I'm in, and they're both head-to-head leagues. One's a point-style leagues, one's categories. And what we've decided is, it looks like in one league, head-to-head. Head-to-head is going to stay for both. It looks like, but for the points league, we're just going to do a head-to-head like season, and we're going to play like three teams a week. And it looks like we're going to do the same thing in the Fantasy Six-Pack League, but we're going to have I think we're going to have a playoff in the Fantasy Six-Pack League still. I'm just going to knock it down from 6 teams to 4 teams and just have it be a 2-week season. Now, our playoff weeks are usually 2 weeks. So it is totally different for our league. The thing we did with our Fantasy Six-Pack League, now granted, we only do a $20 league. It's just kind of for fun. But we got rid of the entry fee this year. And then the other interesting thing is that because it's a 4-person keeper league, we decided that we're not going to count this year's draft at all. After this year, we're just going to reset, like keepers never happened, and or until after keepers. And the biggest reason for that is Tyler Thompson, writer for Fantasy Six-Pack, traded a bunch of his players at the end of 2019 for like 7 or 8 draft picks in 2020. He's getting royally screwed if we were to count this season and not have him like get his legit shot. Now watch, he's gonna win anyway, and he's probably gonna be like, damn it, no, I'm fine. I'll pay for it again. But I just feel like there's just too much unknown. I mean, even if we go through it, I mean, you're talking about, if a player tests positive, they're gonna have to quarantine for 2 weeks. So that's like 25% of the season almost. I think it was 23%. You're talking Trout, right? He's got the thing where his his first kid's going to be born. So he's going to go to that. I mean, so is he going to come back and have to quarantine also? There's just too much craziness, and who knows if they'll actually even be able to finish the season. And I just don't know.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's what we've done. I'm curious to hear what other people are doing with their leagues. I know like NFBC is playing it out. I mean, but they have really no choice. Those are like high dollar leagues, and what are they going to do? It's a business. Like my leagues are not a business. They are for fun. So it's very, very interesting. All right. Got a lot of football to talk about. So let's get to our beer of the week first, though.
Beer.
All right, AJ, what you got?
So it's maybe a little harder to read than I had hoped, but up on the old flying dog chalkboard of beer here, we've got tonight's 2X Your Citra, 2X Your Fun, double your Citra, double your fun from Oliver Brewing. It's their double IPA, 8%er. Looks like basically a spearmint can, or spearmint gum on the can. So I'm a fan. Had one of these the other night. It's pretty tasty, and I decided I'd enjoy another one tonight as a starter.
I am doing the same as because I remember you telling me you had that beer the other night. I am drinking a Commonwealth Brewing Company from Virginia, Sovereign. It is a triple IPA. It's got Lotus and Sabro hops in it. It is a triple IPA. I think it's about 10%. Yep, 10%. So it is a strong one, and it tastes strong, but it's also good. Like, it's not too strong, if you know what I mean by that.
Yeah.
There are some triples that I've had where I'm just like, oh, this is disgusting. This one's good, man. I gave it 4 3/4 on Untapped out of 5. So definitely one of my faves.
Heavy hitter.
Yes, and this will be the only one I'm drinking tonight because of that. So, cheers.
Cheers.
All right, well, let's bring on our guest, John LaPresto from Fantasy Six Pack. Met him back in the day when we both wrote for So-Called Fantasy Experts. So, John, how you doing tonight? I think you're still on mute. That's 2 for 2. Awesome.
2 for 2.
I nailed it.
2 on mute.
Nailed it right from the start.
Love it. We're killing it tonight, guys.
Awesome.
Killing it.
Yes. So what's going on, guys?
Not much.
Ready to talk ready to talk some football, ready to talk some AFC North, man. This is a power conference, man. I was doing the notes for this, and I was like, I've got so many more questions than I wrote down, but only so much that we can do.
We're just not going to talk about AJ's shirt, or I mean,
we can. Again, I brought it up to talk about how it's my Father's Day present. It just arrived today. It was supposed to be here Tuesday, but got a little delayed with the shipping, I guess. So I got it today, and I was pretty stoked, so I could broadcast it on tonight's show live.
I mean, that and the stash together are quite the combination. I'm not gonna lie, man.
It's a look. I will say it's a look.
yeah, like what kind of event would you wear that to?
Podcasting in the basement.
It's solid.
Also, Hawaiian parties. It's a Hawaiian shirt. I don't know if you can really see all of it there, but
wait, can you show us the back? What can we do? A spin for us?
Not comfortably. No, not with my earbuds in.
Okay.
I mean, I forgot to mention I'm wearing the Father's Day gift too. It's hard to see, but you guys can go see it on my Twitter profile. It's the in a world full of daddy sharks, be a daddy corn. It's pretty funny.
Nice.
I picked that one out for me, but it's my new profile pic on Twitter. So good times. Yeah, man. I wore my Scott Fishbowl shirt last week. I feel like I shouldn't wear the same shirt 2 weeks in a row, but yeah, I probably have.
Have you guys talked about Fishbowl yet?
Have we talked about it totally? Briefly, but
yeah. Touched on it a little bit. We can dig into it more tonight, though, for sure.
Yeah, we had Gary had out on, and
nice.
Then same show. We talked about Raz Bowl, so we just touched it a little bit. But I do want to ask you though, before we jump into everything. So you're in it again for the however many consecutive year. You are a former runner-up and other year where you were in the finals as well. So definitely lots of success from this guy on the call. What are you thinking about this year's scoring and the changes to the quarterbacks and everything else? So
I would first like to thank Jason Garrett for ruining my chances of winning the year I finished runner-up. He decided to waste his best trick play in the fourth quarter of a meaningless game where Des Bryant threw a touchdown to Jason Witten, which didn't matter whatsoever, and just sealed my hatred for Garrett as a coach. But yeah, so this year's scoring is pretty crazy. I've been doing some mocks all week, and basically what I'm seeing is, quarterbacks are flying off the board. I don't know if that's going to be consistent once the actual draft gets here, but quarterbacks are flying off the board. Running back is unusually thin, I feel like. The last few years, maybe 4 or 5 years, we've been getting away from the running back strategy to start. And, that's kind of the old school thinking. But this year, I don't know, man. It's real thin, real quick. Whereas wide receiver, you get down to round 7, 8, 9, 10. There's still quality guys there.
Yeah, no, I'm feeling you on that. I don't want to give away too much of my strategy, but let's just say quarterbacks and running backs are probably going to be very early picks for me, and pretty often early picks for me.
Yeah.
So
what pick did you get?
I got 3.
Okay.
So basically,
I'm sitting at 2.
I mean, I'm not going to – there's probably no secret here. I'm going either McCaffrey, Mahomes, or Lamar with one of those top 3. That was why I wanted and asked for top 3.
Yep.
Because I was perfectly happy getting any of them.
Yeah, so I'm in the same boat or similar boat. I'm in pick 4, and I was thinking there's a top 6 guys that I want. And with the shortened offseason, I'm thinking that there just might be some more injuries than we usually see, and maybe the coronavirus is a factor where guys have to sit out because of quarantine. So I figure if there's a top 6 guys that I'm interested in, if I ask for pick 4, I'm giving myself some leeway with those variables this year. So that was absolutely my thought.
Yeah, funny you talk about the injuries because of the shortened off season and things like that. We talked with Eric Edholm from Yahoo last week, and he mentioned the exact same thing. And it's spot on. I mean, it's gonna happen. People just aren't gonna be as in condition, and those those soft tissue injuries are gonna happen a lot more. We've seen it in the past with shortened off seasons. So yeah. All right, man. Well, let's jump into this AFC North. So what we're going to do is we're going to go position by position. We'll roll through some ADP real quick on the more important players, some few questions on some guys. But before we do that, we got to ask like a hot topic question for the division. And tonight's is, Baltimore pretty much ran away with this division last year. But, Big Ben was hurt. The entire Steelers offense was hurt, it felt like. Cleveland was awful, even though they should have been much better, it felt like. So maybe they're going to rebound. And then like a young Cincinnati squad who got, Joe Burrow, so maybe they can be dangerous. Can Baltimore still run away with this division, or will they?
Yes.
All right. Easy answer.
Yeah. I think that there's no doubt Cleveland is going to be better. They can't be any more dysfunctional than they were last year. The coach, that they had last year had no concept of what he was doing in regards to running an actual team. No disrespect, I guess, but it was really bad. Stefanski coming in, I mean, he at least, was learning under Kubiak and Zimmer. So he should, be able to bring some continuity to the squad. They're going to be better. They upgraded the offensive line. They brought in Austin Hooper. They're good on defense. So they'll be better. But Baltimore is is to me just far and away the most talented and probably the most they were just mean last year, like just steamrolling people. I mean, they know what they are. They know what they're good at. They drafted for it again. They're a powerhouse.
Yeah, I really like the way they drafted this year, honestly. I mean, like you said, they went after what they wanted to maintain this guys that they have, and got a stud running back in Dobbins, a stud linebacker in Queen. So they just built around what they have been doing and what they've been succeeding at. So I like them to easily win it again. I don't know if they're going to run away with it as easily as they did last year, obviously, but I think the other three teams are going to kind of beat up on each other, and Baltimore is just going to jump in that party and beat up on all of them too. So I see them definitely being a possible 1 seed again this year, but definitely within the top 3 seeds.
Yeah, I agree. So not much else to add to that. Honestly, you guys pretty much hit it all. So let's jump in here to the quarterbacks. Obviously highlighted by Lamar Jackson, number 1 ADP, according to Fantasy Pros. Baker Mayfield comes in at 14. Big Ben comes in at 16. And Joe Burrow comes in at 18. I'm going to start here right with Lamar. And John, I think everybody expects there to be regression from Lamar. Nobody's expecting the crazy season he had last year. But I mean, even with some regression, can he be? Or let me ask you, not can he? Obviously, we know he can, but will he be QB1?
Well, I mean, this is the trap we all fall into. Is we always take the guy who did it last year, and this goes back to like Culpepper and Vic and Aaron Rodgers and Peyton Manning and Brady and now Mahomes. I mean, we always do this. This is a record that goes around every year in fantasy football. It's the quarterback who was quarterback 1 last year is going to be the guy who's going to be quarterback 1 again, and it never happens.
Especially when it's like a young guy. You're like, oh, he's just going to get better. Like,
yeah. Right. No. And the thing is, like, he literally can't get better. So I was doing some research before the show, and so I looked this up, and he's one of 2 players in NFL history that completed 66% or more of his passes, threw for at least 36 touchdowns, and 6 or fewer interceptions. The other was Aaron Rodgers in 2011. Mm-hmm. And that's not even incorporating his rushing into the mix.
Yeah.
I mean, so literally he was like an elite all-time passer last season. As much as that must upset Bill Polian, who wanted to draft him as a wide receiver. But yeah, I mean, he literally can't get better than that. His touchdown rate was 9%.
Yeah, that's not repeatable.
It's just never going to happen.
No.
And so for people who don't know what that is, I mean, like some other ones from last year from top guys, Mahomes was 5.4, Watson was 5.3, Russ was 6. Breeze had an amazing year, and he was 7.1.
Yeah, that is really good.
Yeah, and the year Mahomes had his 50 touchdowns, he was 8.6. And so Lamar was at 9 ahead of all these dudes. There's just no way. I mean, I love Lamar, and I think he will probably finish as a top 3 quarterback. I don't see any reason why he shouldn't. But, I mean, I'm not going to pay the price and fall in the trap that we literally fall into every single season. At some point, you have to learn from your mistakes.
Yeah.
I mean
he's going around 1 in some drafts, man. Like, it's crazy. I will not do it in a regular redraft. Now, Scott Fish is a little bit different because, he gives you that safety. Yeah. Even regression-wise, he could still finish QB1, but it's just not going to be that, like, out of this world good compared to the other quarterbacks. And, you do have to remember that Mahomes missed, what, 2.5-ish games?
And he was banged up for another 2, I think.
Yeah, like he did not come back 100%.
Yeah.
So, like, he might have, and he's almost like he's still almost as good,
Oh,
points wise there, at least average wise. So I've got them like pretty much. I could flip a coin between the two of them if I had to pick QB1 as far as my draft rankings. But yeah, I'm with you on the Lamar thing. I'm not going to pay the price in redraft leagues.
Yeah, and the other thing, just real quick before AJ jumps in, is you have to pay attention to the settings in your league too, because if there's a league where it's 6 points for a passing touchdown, I'm taking Mahomes ahead of that, ahead of Lamar. It's in the 4 points for passing and 6 for rushing. The argument is there for Lamar, and it makes a lot of sense. But you just want to make sure you're looking at your settings.
No, that makes perfect sense. AJ, you got anything else to add, or you want to move on?
No, we can move on. I mean, I think he'll probably also finish top 3, but that's where he's going to be. I mean, especially for fantasy with the rushing, you're gonna see those points. So. But yeah, flipping on the opposite side here, we'll go with the Terrible Towels up in Pittsburgh and talk about Mr. Big Ben Roethlisberger. Look, Ben came off an amazing 2018, but then he had a very, very forgettable 2019, including the lone game that he really played in Week 1 against the Patriots. So with age creeping up on him and everything else, I mean, are we thinking that Ben can stay healthy? And if so, what are you expecting to see as a full season out of him without Antonio Brown?
Yeah, I think you have to go into your draft either assuming that Roethlisberger is 100% healthy and that he's going to be fine, or he's a stay away. I don't think there's, like the way his ADP is right now, it feels like people are kind of hedging. I just don't see why you would do that. To me, you either think his elbow is bad or you think his elbow is okay. If I'm watching preseason and he looks bad and he's grabbing his elbow and he's got ice on it on the sideline, and then I'm staying away completely. But otherwise, I think you have to look at it like he's healthy. You have to look at it like he's in an offense that he knows what he's doing. He's got weapons. He's got Deontay Johnson. He's got Juju back healthy. He's got Connor. He's got, they added McFarland. He's got Vance McDonald and Ebron. They have an elite offensive line. I don't think Roethlisberger has the upside to finish in, the top 5, 6, but, he's a guy who you can get later that's going to finish, top 12, 13. And, if you're waiting on quarterback, that's exactly what you want to look for.
Yeah. I mean, I like Big Ben. I mean, if he can stay healthy, I mean, I think he's top 10 quarterback, possibility. It's just, he's getting up there at age. He takes a lot of hits because he holds the ball. But he's still got the weapons. I mean, yeah, without Antonio Brown is going to be a different story for him. We didn't see much out of it in that first game without him. Didn't look good, but I mean, I think Juju can still be good, and they added Claypool and things like that. So I can still see big things from him, but I'm not taking him very early. I think you don't need to. So
right.
No, he's going to hang around until later. I mean, the strength of schedule for Pittsburgh this year, from his standpoint, is kind of middle of the road, a little better than middle of the road. So that helps him a little bit. But I mean, he still knows what he's doing. Yeah, he is older. He takes a lot of hits, but he doesn't fall down very often. So, that's the good thing about it with him. But
the other thing too, to remember with Roethlisberger, that we probably forget because we don't associate Roethlisberger with last year, but the Steelers' defense was really good last year, and that means they're not going to have to. If the defense is that on top of things again, I mean, they're not going to have to air it out 45 times a game, 40 times a game. Roethlisberger isn't going to have these big 500-yard blow-up weeks if that defense looks anything like it did last year. That's why I don't think he's got the potential to finish, higher than like an 8 or 9. I'm still fine with him. I don't think he's going to lose you games, but I just think it's important to remember that. And I don't see a lot of people talking about the defense. I think because they don't associate Ben with playing last year, and it's just out of sight, out of mind.
No, that's a good point. Yeah, but I mean, he's a great like QB2 target in my opinion, and this is one of the only years that I've ever been like gung ho about taking a QB2. I feel like the streaming is sort of starting to go out the window because so many people are now like onto that. So it's hard to do it because if there's 5 or 6 teams trying to do it, you just need reliable guys you can swap back and forth. So if I can get 2, I'll be okay and just swap them back and forth, and hopefully one just crushes. But let's move on here to we alluded to it earlier with the down season for Cleveland. Baker Mayfield, man, he was off the charts hype last year. Like QB 5 or something like that, being drafted. He had a good rookie season, when he played. He led that team to quite a few wins. But, man, things came crashing back to earth pretty quick. I don't know if it was just, they got in their own heads. They were a little too cocky about things. They signed OBJ. But, I mean, who's the real Baker? Is it the end of 2018 or is it 2019?
Wait, why did you say that because they signed OBJ? Are you insinuating that he had something to do with this?
No, I'm saying like that kind of
it was all that bling with his watches.
I'm saying like that inflated their egos and they were like, oh, we're unstable because we got this guy, right? It's not because of him, but hey, he honestly could be.
Baker even said it. I think at some point this offseason that maybe he didn't. It was something to the effect of he could have worked harder or prepared differently or something to that effect. And, he recognized that he wasn't the player he needed to be last year. I mean, I think I am going to put a lot of it on the coach.
It
was, dysfunctional is an understatement for the team to be as talented as they were to look as bad as they did. It's just a lack of leadership. The offensive line being an absolute train wreck didn't help. I think the thing that we saw Baker's rookie year is what we saw from him in college, which is that, if he gets time, he can read the defense, and he's one of the more accurate guys we've seen come out in the last few years. That was his pedigree anyway. But last year, what we saw is because the line was so bad, they just blitzed the crap out of him.
Yeah.
And I think he was like 3rd or 4th in the league in terms of blitz rate against him. And their line just didn't do him any favors. And I think it's reasonable to assume that he was trying to do too much, that he bought into his own hype, that he was trying to make a big play when there wasn't one there. And I'm willing to give him a pass on last year. I think the team is too talented. I think he's too talented. I like what I've heard from him in the offseason. I'm willing to give him a pass.
Yeah, and they're getting a key piece of that offensive line back. I forget the guy's name who got hurt like super early in the preseason, but it was a rookie, right? Or am I thinking of Cleveland or Cincinnati? I mean,
you're thinking of Cincinnati.
Oh, yeah.
But Cleveland, they went out and they got Jack Conklin, and then they drafted a kid in the first round, and and then with Hunt being available for the full season now, and they went out and added Austin Hooper. They're going to be running a lot of 12 personnel, which is going to help Baker. I think it lines up for him to have a good year. It just depends on how good you think it's going to be, and does he break out of that kind of 12 to 15, 16 range, that tier? Is he that big a difference maker at 12 than he would be at 15, 16? I think that's the question. You just have to figure out which tier you want him in.
Yeah, agreed.
Yeah, I think the interesting thing with Cleveland, like you said, the line definitely had some issues. I mean, they finished 2018 as second-ranked offensive line, on some sites, but then last year they were 23rd. So they had a massive drop off, and that definitely hurt Baker in being able to have time and do what he needs to do back there. I do think there was also a ton of hype coming into the season with this team, and it got to them. So I think he can definitely rebound. I mean, that's not really hard to do with what he did, I feel like, but I like to see some more out of him and see him get closer to what he did in his rookie year. So
I wanted to ask you guys, I was looking at who he's kind of ranked around in as far as ADP goes. And like, it's tough because I like Baker. And I would be fine if my strategy is to like just pound wide receiver, running back, tight end, and then do what Joe was talking about, which is take 2 quarterbacks. I'd be fine with Baker and Roethlisberger as my 2 guys, something like that. But I wanted to ask you guys, like, who are you knocking out of that tier to move Baker up? You know, in that, are you putting him above Brady? Are you putting him above Cousins? Are you putting him above Tannehill, Breeze? Like, where do you guys have him?
I mean, I personally, Cousins is decent. He's consistent, but it's not a passing offense. And we saw that definitely last year. So with a healthy,
and he lost Diggs. So
yeah, he lost Diggs. I mean, he got Jefferson in there, which is a nice get, but he's still a rookie. So I would be okay taking Baker definitely ahead of Cousins and Tannehill. I think Tannehill's kind of due for a little bit of regression.
What about Brady?
He was amazing last year, but I still don't know what to make of Brady now that he has all these weapons again. I definitely think he's going to have more upside than he's had the past few years in New England. And it's a younger group of guys. They're all energized. You know, their running backs are still really young with Rojo and Keyshawn Vaughn.
Team Rojo.
I like Rojo better as well. I'm not buying into the Vaughn hype yet.
Yeah.
Give it till week 3 when he like blows up, and then maybe I change my tune. But I don't know. I think Brady's always been a guy who likes to pass it around though, and he's got all these different weapons there. So I think he will have a better season. It just depends on the league though. The league and the setup.
I've got Brady pretty high. I've got Brady inside my top 10. I've got Baker in the high teens right now. I've got guys like Stafford. I've got Big Ben ahead of him. I'm a Big Ben like believer. He's going to bounce back. I've got Tannehill right ahead of him. I'm just really not moving him up. I mean, it's just he is where he is. I do have Cousins below him. I'm not a Cousins guy this year. I think he's safe, but he's not flashy. He's going to have a tough time having big games. Thielen is just injured a lot, and he just didn't get the job done as the number 1 when Diggs was out. It seemed like time and time again. And, yeah, we all like Justin Jefferson, but rookie wide receivers, no thanks.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the other thing to look at, too, is according to Fantasy Pros, Baker's looking at the 4th easiest schedule for a quarterback. So you got to like that.
Yeah.
So that definitely weighs in a little bit. I mean, those numbers in green tend to jump at me a little bit. I'm a flashy color guy, as if you couldn't tell by my shirt. I don't know.
Yeah, that's staying on brand. I like it.
Exactly.
Well, I think this is a good conversation to have, because I think what it does is it points out that if you are a Baker guy, you can wait. It just is more evidence that you can go ahead and pound the skill positions earlier, as well as later, and still end up with 1 or 2 of your guys at quarterback. I think a lot of people are buying into the Daniel Jones hype and moving him up. I think Baker probably ends up going around where Aaron Rodgers goes, probably like that Goff, Aaron Rodgers, Roethlisberger tier.
I bet Rodgers goes 12, 13-ish range just because is the name.
Stupid.
Yeah, I mean, they just didn't add anything. Though.
No, they didn't. But it's
No.
Aaron Rodgers, and people are going to do it.
What I really want to see is if, and I'm not hoping for this, only for this other reason I'm about to mention, the season is canceled. I want to see a commercial off between Aaron Rodgers and Baker Mayfield, because we've got discount double checks and we've got plumbing toilet stalls and parties in a stadium. So I think that could be good.
I like it.
It's fine with me. All right, let's move on to the last question here, AJ, for quarterbacks.
All right. Sorry. Caught me mid gulp there.
It's all right.
All right. So quarterbacks, we got Mr. number one pick himself, Joe Burrow. So, I mean, since he did pretty well in this draft, I feel like they went out, they got a lot of good weapons. Within the draft itself with Burrow and T. Higgins, they've already got some weapons there as it is with Boyd and Mixon. So, do you think that he's going to be a reliable rookie quarterback?
No, I don't, and I think it's not going to be any fault of his. But I think, at a lot of the sites that you look at that do the rankings for offensive line, they either have the Bengals as the worst or the second worst. And I don't know that coach and that coaching staff is enough to overcome that. I believe in Burrow. I think next year, if they address the offensive line, I think Burrow is one of those guys that can make a big jump. Where we're talking about him as, quarterback, maybe 8 or 9 next year as opposed to where he's going now. But no, I'm not buying it. The line is so bad. The coaching staff is unproven. I don't see any reason to take Burrow. If you're in a super flex league, that's one thing. And I like him as a quarterback too, who can have some big weeks. Maybe kind of like what we saw from Daniel Jones last year, where he's got spikes and he's got some big weeks. But to bank on that, I think is a mistake. He's got some sneaky legs to him. That'll give you an extra couple points a game. That's nice, but he's going to make mistakes. The coaching staff is going to make mistakes. The offensive line is putrid. That's a pass for me.
Yeah. I don't like to take rookie quarterbacks anyway, but I wouldn't mind taking a chance on him as my QB2 if I'm taking one, but yeah, otherwise I'm staying away, obviously. So, let's move on to some running backs here. So quick run through the ADP. We got Joe Mixon at 7. This is running back 7, by the way. Nick Chubb at 9. We got Mark Ingram at 20. James Conner at 21. Kareem Hunt at 29. And then it's a big drop to the next guys. But J.K. Dobbins at 42. Jalen Samuels at 59. Justice Hill at 60. Bernard at 64. And McFarland at 66. I wasn't going to go that deep, but I saw McFarland, and I felt like I wanted to mention that.
Yeah.
So Joe Mixon, let's start here. So he's getting a lot of love after finishing RB4 from week 10 and on last year. I mean, miserable through the first half. To no fault of his own, honestly. He just wasn't getting used.
Yeah.
Since he all of a sudden after the bye week was like, yeah, we're going to give our best player the ball. And it worked. Yeah. Not that they won games or anything, but it worked, right? Yeah. At least he did well.
Well,
are we buying into the first half or the second half of last season more? Because his ADP is first half or second half of the season.
Right. I mean, everybody's on board. Truthfully, I think it's going to be somewhere in the middle. I Mixon the player. I love Mixon the player. I think he is top handful of talented running backs in the league. Guy who can do it all. If he was on a team with a good offensive line, I think he could be in the conversation for RB1 with Saquon and with Zeke and CMC. But that's just not the situation he's in. They, like you said, they used him last year, but I also felt like they were in a situation where they had to use him last year because everybody else was banged up. I think Boyd was banged up at the end of the year. they had Dalton in and out of the lineup. I mean, at some point, you just have to kind of lean on the guy that at least you know what you're going to get. Mixon, I think he's going to be good. I think he will be a top 10 back, a top 12 back. He's one of, 7 or 8 guys who are going to play on first, second, and third down. I mean, there's value in that. But no, I don't think he's going to meet the expectations for people who are looking at the last 5 or 6 games. I think two of those games were against Cleveland, who was just a mess at the end of the year. I think he had like 400 yards or 350 yards in those 2 games against Cleveland at the end of the season. So
that's possible. I did not look at the schedule, but yeah, I know he crushed it pretty hard those last few weeks. For sure. And he's a great player, but he's not on a great team. He doesn't have a great coach, and he doesn't have a great offensive line.
That's gonna come back to haunt them. Pro Football Focus has their line at 30th out of 32. So unless they address that, like you said, in the offseason, after this year, they're going to need to do something. Too much young talent back there to risk injury upon with Mixon and Burrow. So moving on here, we talk about Cleveland again. We got Chubb. He was RB5 before Hunt returned last season, and then he dropped all the way down to RB15 afterwards. And Hunt became RB19 in half the games. So why is it that Chubb is still RB9 on draft day?
Because he's not going to lose you your league. That some people buy into that saying where you can't win your league in the first round, but you can lose it. To me, Chubb is like the poster child for that saying. Everybody at this point knows the Hunt stats last year, the splits. I think everybody realizes that Hunt is going to take away probably a decent chunk of targets in the passing game for Chubb. But, Chubb, he's got a good offensive line. He's an elite talent. The coach comes from a strong running game. Under Kubiak, we saw what they did with Dalvin Cook last year. He's durable. We have enough of a sample size now to know that. There just aren't, for as thin as the running back position gets, and as many guys as there are where there's somebody else in the backfield to compete with. I mean, Chubb is there's a lot of questions that we don't have about Chubb, and it checks a lot of boxes. And I'm good with Chubb where he is. I'm good taking Chubb and then waiting, another 3 or 4 rounds to take a running back if I can.
All right. Yeah, I'm not huge on Chubb this year. I'm passing on him and where he's going, so I probably won't own him anywhere. But I don't know. It's a weird situation there in Cleveland. But let's jump over here to the Baltimore Ravens, where we got newcomer J.K. Dobbins, who I really liked coming out of college. Lands in a really good spot for, in my opinion, dynasty.
Yeah, next year I'm all in.
Next year, man, I'm totally on this guy. But do we think he impacts Mark Ingram this year to the point where you need to fade him?
No. To fade Ingram, you're saying?
Yeah.
No, I don't think so. I think that it's realistic to expect that they're going to want to run Lamar less than they did last year. I think Lamar had 170 carries or something last year. They're going to want to take that down. They're going to want to limit, the injury risk for Lamar. And I think you go back and you look at what Gus Edwards and Justice Hill did. I think combined they had 200 or so touches. And those guys are still there, but Dobbins is better than those guys. Mm-hmm. And I think maybe even a bigger factor is this weird offseason we've had where the rookies don't have time to acclimate themselves to the playbook. They don't have time to work with the quarterback. I think that you have a team that's Super Bowl ready, Super Bowl aspirations. They're going to lean on Ingram, at least early on. So I think there's room for Dobbins to carve out a role as if he can overtake Gus and Hill, which I don't think should be a problem, but that still leaves 200 touches plus for Ingram. I think, if you're the whatever version of zero RB that there is this year, and you want to take Ingram as your RB1 and just like smash wide receiver and tight end in the first 3 or 4 rounds, Ingram's not a bad guy to go with as your RB1 if you're taking that approch. I don't love Ingram, but I mean, he's going to get touches, and he's on
and in that offense, like he's going to have some monster games still. Like It's such a running heavy offense, and people are so focused on Lamar. He's going to kill it time and time again. So, and Dobbins is going to have his days too, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think there's enough to go around in that offense from a running perspective. Lamar's not a passing quarterback, so he doesn't have receivers or to throw to. But
damn good.
He does have. He's got a couple guys out there in Hollywood and Miles Boykin. Willie Snead back in his heyday was really good, but he's fallen off and kind of out of favor, it seems like. But obviously Mark Andrews is there too. So I think from a running back standpoint, though, Ingram is still a safe play. And he's not going to cost you a whole hell of a lot. So
yeah, exactly. And I think even more so in standard scoring leagues, because you have Lamar just doesn't pass to the running backs. That's the only, if there's one knock on Lamar, it's that he doesn't get his running backs involved in the passing game. So in standard scoring leagues, especially, I feel like Ingram and Dobbins are fine.
Yeah. So jumping into last team here with Pittsburgh, James Conner was an absolute beast in 2018. And, just like Ben being injured in 2019, even with Conner being injured in 2019, when he did play, it still really wasn't that great. So, I mean, do you see a bounce back out of Conner, or are you expecting more out of the other guys down there?
Yeah, it's funny. If Conner is one of the guys that I have done a 180 on this offseason, I was completely prepared to fade Conner this year because I thought he would be going around like RB 15, 16. But he's going in the 20s, early 20s right now. And so a couple of things. One is his points per game, especially in PPR leagues, his points per game split with Roethlisberger at quarterback. I think he's 5 points per game higher with Big Ben than he is without him. That's a big difference. Two is last year before he got hurt, he wasn't efficient. His yards per carry was way down. But before his injury, I was looking at the game logs. He was getting 18 touches a game. And with that offensive line, give me 18 touches a game at RB 21, 22, 23. There aren't a lot of guys in that range that are going to get you that many touches, that much opportunity. We know what Tomlin does. D'Angelo Williams, Le'Veon Bell, James Conner. He likes to use one guy. I do like McFarland as a wild card. I like McFarland more than the other guys in the backfield besides Conner. But, I mean, at some point we have to assume that Tomlin is what he says or what he's shown us to be, which is a guy who just wants to give one dude the ball. I think there are injury question marks about Conner, obviously. But with this offseason, I think we're going to see injuries anyway. And it's like the one weird offseason where maybe Conner isn't as affected by missing 3 or 4 games because a lot of guys might miss 3 or 4 games.
Yeah.
I don't know. That's my thought. I think he's going to be one of these make or break guys where, I think if he plays, he's not going to score running back 21, 22 points per game. If he plays, he's going to score, top 12, top 15 points per game, and he's going to get you value. I'm all in on that, and I didn't think I was when the offseason started.
Yeah, I'll be honest with you, I wasn't either. I've been buying into him more and more too. Like he keeps climbing up my charts, and I'm not sure how high he's gonna go. Like at some point, the hype train is it's gonna be too much on him. But for right now, it's still a super good value. I mean, yeah, everybody's injury prone, and there's question marks around everybody that's going around him. So why not take a guy who's done it before?
Yeah,
and just hope he can do it again. That's my thought with him too. So I like it a lot. So I mean, well, before we jump into receivers, John, you are on a sort of special show. We don't usually do things like this, but we're going to announce, we had a contest this week, and we're going to have 3 more of these, by the way. We're giving away a footballguys.com all-pro subscription. And the winner this week is, and I need to find it. I just closed all my stupid windows like an idiot. There we go. Is Chris Wilcox at Chris M. Wilcox. So his story, by the way, I've been playing fantasy football with my same high school buddy since 2006 and have been a perennial loser. They've even named the last place trophy after me. Like, brutal, dude.
That's awesome.
Like, brutal, dude.
Oh,
harsh.
That's terrible.
Love it.
Well, this year I won it with Barkley, Aaron Jones, and D. Parker. Needless to say, I think I ended the world. Like this story just made me laugh, dude. Super underdog story. It was awesome. This isn't exactly the stories I was looking for, but this one made me laugh and made me feel good too. Like you gotta root for the underdog here. This was awesome. So Chris, I will be DMing you on Twitter. Hope you're listening. You got to hear your name called out on the show. And then I'll be passing along your email address. I'll have to get that from you because the football guys need it to send you your subscription information. So congrats, man. And to anybody else who entered, like I said, we're giving away 4 or 3 more of these in the next 3 weeks. So each week we're giving away 1. There'll be a new contest. Look out for the information. I'll probably send it out on late Saturday, late Sunday or early Monday or something like that again. It'll be going all week until right up to the show. But no, this is good to read a few of these that we got. We had some other decent ones, but this one
there was some good entries for sure. Yeah.
Mark Strasburg from the site probably had one of the best ones. It didn't count because he didn't tag anybody, but it was like I went into Monday night up 50 plus points, and it was a Washington Philly game, and my opponent had Vic. End of story. And I was like, oh no, I know exactly which game you're talking about. That was the one where
Me too.
Was it the 6 touchdown game?
Great game.
Oh, brutal, dude. Like I went over to my friend's house and we were drinking some beer. I'm not gonna lie, we drank a lot of beer. That game was awful as a Redskins fan. As an Eagles fan, AJ, I'm sure you were just like, oh, it was phenomenal. So anyway, good stuff.
Congrats to Chris there. It goes to show you, if for all those losers out there, there's there's hope.
You're eventually going to be a winner.
Yeah, no matter how bad you are, you could be like Chris and be the ultimate loser and still end up winning.
All it takes
they named the championship trophy or the loser trophy after him. That's hilarious. That's so bad.
Brutal.
Oh man, but all right, let's jump back into this here. Wide receivers, a lot here. I'm just rip through them as fast as possible. OBJ 12 ADP, Juju's 18, Green's 28, Landry 31, Boyd is 32, Marquise Brown 33, Deontay Johnson 46, getting some hype. I feel like the ADP is rising a little bit. Then we got some lower end guys here. T. Higgins is 60, Ross is 72, James Washington 74, Miles Boykin 78, and Chase Claypool at 83. Start off right there with those Browns and OBJ 26, Landry. So last year, right, they finished wide receiver 26, and Landry was wide receiver 13. Yet their ADPs this year are pretty much exactly flipped.
Yeah.
Why? Like, are we fooling ourselves here? Or
no. I think we're smart. I think give credit to the fantasy industry for getting it right. So last year, and I realize, a lot of people are off the OBJ train, but I'm still on for one more year. So last year, Beckham had 74 receptions, 1,035 yards, and everybody acts like he was absolute crap, right? So DJ Shark, 1,008 yards. We all love DJ Shark. A.J. Brown, 1,051 yards. We all love A.J. Brown. Devontae Adams played less than 12 games, had less than 1,000 yards. We all love Devontae Adams. Calvin Ridley, less than 900 yards. We all love Calvin Ridley. Like, the guys who you're passing, the guys who you're taking to pass up OBJ are in the same situation that OBJ is in. Some more about last year. He averaged 14 yards a catch last year, which is more than the previous 3 seasons he had. He had his longest touchdown of his career last year, 89 yards. So the big play potential is still there. His big season, his breakout in, I guess technically his rookie was his breakout, but his 100-catch season in 2016, he was averaging 10.5 targets a game. And last year he was at 8.5 targets a game. So are we saying that an offseason where he had surgery, he had the hernia repaired, better offensive line, better coach, we just think that an extra 2 targets a game for OBJ just isn't realistic? One of his best seasons, he was at 8.1 yards per target. Last year, he was at 7.8 yards per target. I just don't see the drop off that other people are baking into the OBJ hate. I don't see it.
My only thing with him is that like he seems to be injured a little too much for me. And even when he's been on the field, granted, yeah, he had Eli, at the end, but he's been inconsistent. We know the talent and the playmaking ability is there, but it's just been inconsistent with me, and that's why I'm off of him. I know he's going to have these blow-up games, and it's probably going to, bloat his overall value, but I just don't think the consistency is there with him, and consistency is a big deal with me. Like, I buy into the Bob Lung theory a lot, and did before I even knew Bob Lung.
I will say, like, I didn't. I was not on the consistency train, and credit to Bob Long, like that he is very convincing and has kind of turned me on that situation completely.
We have that show later in the off season, man. You're going to tune in for that one. It is an awesome show.
It's one of our favorite guests. We love you, Bob.
So,
all right.
Yeah.
So,
no, I
moving.
mean, that's. Yeah, I think OBJ is one of those guys. I think he's a polarizing guy where, he's either you're going to be able to get him outside of the top 10 receivers and he's going to finish in the top 5, or, he's, by the end of the year, you're going to be like, F this, I'm never drafting this guy again.
Yeah.
But I'm in for one more go round. I'm
sure.
in.
All right.
And with Landry, I have no problem with Landry, but I don't like his hip situation. Like everybody's acting like this isn't a big deal. He had hip surgery I think it was in February, and it was like 6 to 8 months he was supposed to be out. He wasn't even supposed to be back until at some point in training camp. And I think because the off season has been, no one's gotten together, I think people have just forgotten that like he wouldn't even be there yet, even though, there would be stuff ramping up right now. Hips are not an easy fix from what we've seen. And for a guy like Landry, who's all about, going over the middle and, making tough plays, getting that burst, I don't know. That's a big question mark I feel like people aren't talking about.
Yeah, honestly, it's something I've kind of forgotten about. I'm not gonna lie. So this is a good point. I do have them ranked kind of in that range where the ADP is. So, but I do have OBJ a little bit lower. Thanks Triple IPA. What? Yeah, thank you. I do have OBJ ranked a little bit lower than the ADP and some of the consensus, but I do have him ranked ahead of Landry by a margin close to that. So
does the Austin Hooper signing, does that scare you at all with Landry?
So I don't want to give too much away in the later show, but no, not really.
Okay.
Yeah, we'll get there.
Yeah.
So let's dip back over to Pittsburgh here and talk about Mr. Juju. So we feel like his bad season last year was more of a byproduct of poor QB play. I mean, right? That's the way we got to look at that.
I think so.
Should we be still looking at taking Juju ahead of guys like Calvin Ridley, a Sutton, an A.J. Brown, etc., like in that tier?
Yeah.
Where he's kind of ranked around these guys. Well, he's ahead of all of them right now on Fantasy Pros, but
yeah, Juju is one of those tough ones this year. I think the expectations of a 1,400-yard season again are unrealistic, but I do buy into Deontay Johnson. They have said that they want to play Deontay Johnson and Claypool as the outside guys. That moves Juju back into the slot. We've seen him and Ben have a good rapport with him playing that position before. If Connor's healthy, then they have a threat in the running game. We talked about the offensive line already. Juju, he's still 23 years old. That's crazy. Last year, even with the bad quarterback play, I think Juju played 10 games and he had 75 yards or more in 5 of the 10 games. So we think about his year last year as this just total tank session, but it wasn't as bad as I think we remember. I jotted some guys down that I would be comfortable taking Juju ahead of for the upside. And I put down Hilton, Lockett, Sutton, Boyd, Ridley, and Cup. And I know a lot of people are going to disagree with me on the Cup one and probably on the Ridley one too, but I don't know. We've seen Juju do it. Like I said, I like that he's going to be in the slot. Just 23 years old. Good offense, good offensive line. Coach knows how to use him. A lot of upside.
I'm with you on all of those guys. I've got him ranked ahead of every single one of them.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think. I think he's easily going to bounce back this year. He's too talented. He's going to really grasp this idea as the number one guy. I mean, he could have done it last year, but it was too hard when you don't have a relationship with the guy that's throwing you the ball. And then Pittsburgh went and switched him in and out and this and that. And then, he didn't even play from week 12 on. So that doesn't help either. He only had 100-yard game last year. So, we'll see what happens. But I definitely think he's in for a bounce back this year for sure.
Absolutely. So moving on here, next team, AJ Green here, coming back off the injured year. And he's been injured 2 out of the last 3 years. Pretty good. Rookie quarterback coming in. He's age 32 season. I mean, his ADP seems kind of high for the risk you're taking with him.
I feel like you are literally buying him at
peak value,
or at least close to it. Where's the discount? So, he's got a rookie quarterback that should be a discount. He's coming off a missed season. That should be a discount. He was hurt the year before that. That should be a discount.
Well, he was hurt the year before that, but he played every game. I looked. It was weird. I thought he was hurt a lot. I think he came off the field a bunch.
18. He didn't 17. Play every game. 17, yeah.
17, he didn't play every game.
No,
did I look that up?
18, he didn't play every game. He missed week 1. He played 2 through 8. They had the bye week. And then he missed 10 through 12, played 13, and then missed the rest of the season. Wow, he played
where I just looked.
He had one reception on 1 target for 7 yards in week 13. So he was basically gone.
Oh, okay. So I'm looking at. So when I was looking at Pro Football Focus,
17
I was looking
he
at
played
18,
every
17,
game.
and 16, thinking it was 19, 17, and 18.
Oh, gotcha.
Yes.
So it's. Yeah, so I have the years off, but still.
So we have and then the offensive line being a negative. That should be at least somewhat of a discount. And then on top of that, this is the most talented skill position cast AJ Green's probably ever played with. You have Mixon, you have Boyd, you have Higgins, you have Ross is a former first-round pick. I know, Auden Tate isn't anything special, but he's a capable receiver as well. I mean, there are other options. This is not a Andy Dalton funneling the ball to AJ Green situation. And on top of that, AJ Green, just as a reminder to everybody, AJ Green still does not have a long-term contract. I don't even know if he's signed his tender for this season. So I don't know why we're all acting like this is a sure thing. Am I wrong on that contract situation? I don't think I am.
have not looked that up. I do not know.
Trying to see if I can find it right now, but
just look up
it just says after missing 2019, he's quote unquote fully healthy and working hard, according to the coach. This is on Fantasy Pros. Everything's been positive, blah blah blah. It doesn't say anything about his contract there though, and that
he signed a 1 year, 17
April. So
said he signed a 1 year, 17 million, almost 18 million contract with the Bengals, including in it. Yeah, so I think he's good this year.
I don't think so. I'm looking at Albert Freer.
This is Sport Track. The site that does all these contract breakdowns.
Yeah, I think that's the contract they offered him, but he still has to sign the tender. So.
This said he signed it.
I don't know.
I don't know.
Either way, you're looking at a guy who in 2 of the last 3 years that he actually was on the field for at least a game wasn't there for your fantasy playoffs. 16, he was gone after week basically 10. He had 1 target in week 11 and got injured. And 17, like we talked about, he was there, but not very, overwhelming performances weeks really from week 11 on. 50 yards, 66 yards, 77, 64, 30 in week 15. That hurts. 81 in week 16. Not bad on 10 targets, 6 receptions. And then he just was gone all after the bye week in week 18. So I just think it's a lot to bank on a guy that's been an injury concern. We already talked about the shortened off season. We already talked about soft tissue injuries. He's coming off an injured season. So I don't like AJ Green this year. Love the first name, hate the rest of it.
And I like the player. I mean, I'm an AJ Green guy. Like I've always tried to get him. I do like him as well. But his situation is just junk, and there's just no discount built into it.
Yeah. So kind of alluded to it earlier, but I mean, do we even care about the Ravens wide receivers? Is there anything to talk about here? Can we just go to tight ends?
I will say 2 things about the Ravens wide receivers. One is there are a lot of people smarter than me that are on Marquise Brown. I tend to use what's happened before to predict the future. And Marquise Brown he's like 5'9", 170. And the list of guys that have been fantasy wide receiver 1s, 2s, and 3s at that size is not long. So, I know he's got talent, and I know that he will have an effective role for that team. But I mean, at some point, don't we have to factor the history of football into our decision making?
I would think so.
Yeah. Or do those little lightweight guys are they able to just run away from everybody else?
I mean, if you can name
probably
3 or 4 more, then I'm all ears. But
now off the top of my head.
Yeah, it's Deshaun Jackson is his best bet.
Yeah,
and that's certainly possible.
That's the one I was leaning towards, but I was like,
But are we confident that Lamar's going to throw the ball enough?
No.
To give him a Deshaun Jackson ceiling? I'm not.
That's my problem with him. He is the ultimate best ball type receiver.
Totally. Yeah.
Like him and Djax, like the same type of thing. The problem with Brown is that you've got to pay up for him in best ball to where I'd rather have other guys, I feel like.
Yeah.
Where he's going.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because people are buying into, they saw those early blow up games from him last season and they're like, oh man, this guy's awesome.
And he is. He is awesome.
He's talented. It's just not going to be consistent, man. This is not there.
I think he's better in real life than he is in fantasy.
Yeah, absolutely. So, all right, let's finish up here. Tight ends. Not. It's going to be a pretty short topic for most divisions.
Not a lot to be excited about.
But got a top guy here, Mark Andrews, being the third tight end off the board. Austin Hooper coming over from Atlanta, who was a beast for them until he got hurt. He's down to number 10. And then just because Dave Eddy hates the guy so much, I decided to throw Eric Ebron on here at number 18. Hey, Big Ben's back. He likes his tight ends a little bit. Yeah. Who knows? But let's start with Mark Andrews, the most interesting one of the bunch here. Obviously, 10 touchdown catch last season off 64 receptions. Me personally, I don't think 10 touchdowns is repeatable for just about anybody. But can he do it knowing that Lamar loves to throw to his tight ends, doesn't throw to his running backs, big red zone target? What are we feeling here?
Every time I see or hear something about Mark Andrews, the first thing I think of is that highlight last year where Andrews is throwing his hands up in the end zone and he's like, I'm open, and Lamar throws his hands back up and then runs into the end zone himself. It's like one of the best NFL highlights ever. It's amazing. I really like Andrews. There's some crazy stats with him though. So he didn't even play 50% of the snaps last year, I don't think.
They don't have Aiden Hurst now, so that could change.
So, and then I was looking at tight end routes run, and he wasn't even in the top 20 in routes run by a tight end last year. He didn't play in week 17, so his stats would have been even better had he played. So I'm thinking like, okay, there's no way he's not going to be a top 3 or 4 tight end. And then literally like right before I came on the show, I saw something that I had never seen before, which is that Andrews has diabetes. He's got type 1 diabetes, apparently.
Heard that.
And that makes him a potential, put him on the potential vulnerable list for coronavirus.
Oh.
And so I wish I was more prepared to talk about that tonight, but I didn't see that until literally right before I came on. But if we ignore that and the rest of it, like you said, Hurst is gone. He's got a bigger role with Hurst gone. You'd have to assume he's going to play more than 50% of the snaps. You have to assume he's going to be in the top 20 in tight end routes run. I agree with you on the touchdown repeatability. That's probably not likely, but the rest of it is completely repeatable.
Yeah.
I am totally fine with people who have Andrews as the tight end 3 or 4 this year.
Yeah, it's like him and Waller, and it's a whole couple of guys there. Yeah. Him, Waller, and Ertz, kind of 3, 4, 5, whatever order you want them in. I feel like is totally fine. AJ, do you agree or disagree?
No, I mean, I like Andrews. I definitely think he's one of the top targets this year. Touchdown wise, touchdowns are hard to predict, obviously.
Yeah.
So
possible,
I think that could go either way. I mean, he could have less than 10, or he could have 15 or more if he becomes the only target for Lamar. But the one interesting stat I'm trying to find in my my Twitter thing here is from Andrew Cooper at Coop A Fiasco, is in my Scott Fish 1.02 draft group that we're talking about, and he's been talking up tight ends all over this chat, and basically talking about how you want to target a guy tight end wise that is your second leading target share getter on your team, and Andrews is that guy, but he's only like one of 2 guys that has not hit 100 targets but he's got 10 plus touchdowns and 95 plus targets. So that's what you want to look for, at least in Scott Fish.
Yeah, and tight end premium leagues in general.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. So
yeah,
I love Andrews this year. I think he's good. I think he's gonna get his. The diabetes thing is definitely interesting. I did hear that correlation. I didn't think about it with him personally, but I did hear about that correlation with the virus itself. So, I mean, looking at his stats though, I mean, he really hasn't. Aside from weeks 1 and 2, he didn't blow up the yardage. Week 6 against Cincy, but yeah, he was very touchdown dependent. So I think if that falls off a little bit, then that could hurt his value, especially for where he's going.
But think about it. If he drops down, let's say from 10 to 6 touchdowns, but if he plays, 15%, 20% more snaps,
True.
runs more routes, in PPR leagues anyway, you're looking at a guy who's still got upside, who's still going to probably finish in the top 5.
Yeah.
So to me, like, that's what you're looking for. You're looking for a guy who's got a decent floor and a super high ceiling, and you can find variables in the stats and where they can get better. Mm-hmm. And Andrews fits all of that, assuming, like I said, I have to dig more into this diabetes thing. I had no idea that he even had that. So,
hey, we could all go. We could all take whoever we like next as the next big thing at tight end, like we did OJ Howard last year.
Yeah, right.
I'm gonna drink now. AJ, you can go to the next question.
Yeah.
All right, sounds good. So we've got speaking of Hooper. Dude was tight end number 1 last season until he got injured for Atlanta. So now that he's in Cleveland, we've kind of already alluded to this. His ADP still shows that people are not buying into the repeat. Are you on board with the non-repeat, or do you think he's going to out-target share everybody there?
I think it depends on Landry. I think if Landry is healthy, then no, I'm not buying what he did last year for Atlanta. The coach that's come in has talked about running 12 personnel, which, obviously is great. It means Hooper's going to be on the field, but it means Njoku's going to be playing too. And I don't think that anybody understands the lack of Njoku usage over the last 2 years. So you have to think that he's going to be in the game plan somewhat. They're going to use Hooper in a blocking capacity, at least somewhat, because that they need to protect. So it depends on Landry. If Landry's good, then I think Hooper's not. If Landry is banged up, or you believe Landry is going to be banged up, then I think Hooper's a nice flyer if you want to wait on tight end. If you want to wait and take, a Hooper and a Herndon late, something like that, then yeah, I think that makes sense. I just don't know yet. I think it depends on Landry.
Yeah, it's definitely a good point.
I'm not
I said, I didn't really think too much about the hip with Landry, but that's a good point. But I mean, if Landry's there, I'm off Hooper. Like, I just don't want anything to do with it. People are going to buy into last year too many times, in far too many spots. Not that he's going to go, tight end 1, 2, or 3, but he might go like tight end 5 or 6, and I got him at like tight end 11 or 12 right now. So
yeah, I'm
not getting it.
And the upside isn't there. That's the other thing. The floor might be there. He might have a nice floor, but there's too many other options on that team for him to be that big of an upside play for me. I don't see it. So that's my Hooper take.
Yep. No, I agree with you. So, all right, man. Well, that's all we've got for the NFC North preview.
I do, however, like Ebron.
You do.
Yeah.
That's funny. So our contest winner jumped on and said, "All in on Ebron!" ! So,
well, let me ask you this.
Tell me why.
I said this on Twitter the other night, and I was surprised at how much interest it got. Going into last season, on almost everybody's sleeper list last year at tight end was Vance McDonald. So why were we all excited about Vance McDonald last year, but we have no interest in Eric Ebron this year?
Because I don't think Eric Ebron's actually that good.
Neither is Vance McDonald.
I don't know, man. At least Vance McDonald's made some plays down the field. Ebron is literally just a red zone target, and that is it.
But Vance McDonald also has one of the most probably highly watched bowl you over, knock your ass out, trampling moves, stiff arms of all time. So I'm going to give him that. Dude.
Ebron's one good year was like, what? How crazy number of I can't even think of it right now.
Yeah,
it was
like
crazy
12,
number of touchdown passes.
15,
yeah, it was a crazy number of touchdown passes with Indy.
Yeah.
And it was like, and he's done almost nothing.
All right.
Otherwise.
Well, then I guess it comes down to what you think about Deontay Johnson then, because if you're not a Deontay Johnson believer, then who do they have in that offense that Ben is going to be comfortable throwing to besides Juju?
So I do like Deontay Johnson. And yeah, he's obviously going to dump the ball down to Connor, and I think they'll bring in, James Washington and Samuels and things like that to help dump down the ball too. Look, I think Ebron will be involved.
That you're wrong on Ebron.
I think Ebron will be involved. I just don't think he's going to be involved enough to be a startable tight end in a fantasy league.
But he's going so late. I mean, I don't disagree with what you're saying.
There's so many other guys I'll take over him. I'll take Jonnu Smith. I'll take Jack Doyle.
Yeah, Doyle's going way too late. I'll give you
I will go after a whole bunch of guys over top of him. I can flip-flop. Right now in my rankings, I've got Blake Jarwin just under Ebron. I could easily flip Jarwin ahead of him. There's so many arguments for Blake Jarwin over Ebron, in my opinion, too. Because at least Blake Jarwin has all the Witten shares, assuming he has all the Witten shares to himself. That's monster. Ebron still has to share the ball with McDonald a little bit. I mean, look, there is that big Ben McDonald connection. So maybe that's going to be a thing still with a limited offseason.
Yeah, maybe.
Ben did like Heath Miller when he was there, and they had a good rapport. But Ebron's touchdown year was 2018. He had 13 touchdowns. The rest of his career from 14, 15, 16, 17, and 19, he has one more touchdown between those 5 years than he got in that 1 year. Target-wise, he had 110 targets that year, but he was pretty high in targets in Detroit in 16 and 17, 85 and 86, respectively. But he only had 1 and 4 touchdowns, respectively. So I don't know. I mean, I think he can be a red zone target, but I think that there needs to be some sort of rapport built there with Ben. I think he's a big-bodied guy, so I think he could be that breakout just touchdown guy this year on not a ton of targets. So I mean,
AJ gets it.
For where he's going, I think that he can definitely have some value for you, but he's gonna be like a Hollywood Brown. He's gonna be a best ball guy in my mind.
But nobody's drafting him, right? Like nobody's actually gonna draft him as a tight end 1, right?
Not as a tight end 1.
No,
maybe,
not as a tight end 1.
Right. So
but
maybe a 2 or 3.
Like, you can get him in
round
3.
Those many?
in tight end premium, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. Okay. So exclude tight end premiums because most of us don't play in that, right?
Yeah. Right.
So let's exclude tight end premium and just throw out the normal tight end leagues. Let's say,
a lot
last
of people,
few rounds, you don't have a tight end left, but tight ends 15 through 25, 15 on are available. You're not taking Ebron. So yeah, he's a waiver wire ad. He's gonna be a streamer tight end. He will have value. He will have games. I just don't think he's going to finish very high, and he's not going to be consistent enough. He's super tight end, super touchdown dependent, and I don't see it changing in this offense.
I think we are on the precipice of a potential tight end streaming type of situation in fantasy football. I think for the first time in forever, there are legitimately 20 tight ends a week that could have a good game. And it is entirely possible that some of these people that are out there that are smarter than me are going to figure out how to stack their teams with skill position players and stream tight end based on matchup, because there's so many athletic guys now that weren't there before. And I think if somebody wants to try that strategy, I guess what I'm saying is I think Ebron fits the mold.
That legitimately crushes my.
If that's the way you're going to play it, then I can agree with you. I will totally agree with you if that's the way you're going to play it. I will not take him as my every week tight end.
Right.
Not
Lyle.
Totally fair. Yeah, and that's where I was going with the best ball thing, and even especially in best ball, if you're looking for something to fill out depth in your roster in those later rounds, I think he's a guy I would be okay moving up around maybe 2, depending on how my depth looked at the other skill positions, to go and grab, because he could have these blow up games. And if Vance goes down, who the hell is he going to throw to? He's going to get all of those shares of targets. So, all it might take is one wrong stiff arm and his arm gets caught in a helmet and his elbow pops out weird, and that's a bad look on YouTube compared to the other ones. So, Ebron could gain value really quick.
Yeah, no, so I'm just gonna end it here. I do agree with John here that there are. It seems weird to say that the tight end position is deep. Yeah, they're not going to score you a ton of points, but there's so many more guys you can rely on in compare. Obviously the top 4 or 5, even 6 are miles ahead of the rest. But after that, there's a ton of guys that you can rely on. In years past, there was 3 other guys you can rely on past the top 3. And so
so ugly.
This is good news because Yeah. So all right,
cool.
We're gonna end it here. John, thank you for coming on. Great conversation. You made so many good points.
Absolutely. Thanks, man. Appreciate it.
Remind everybody where they can find you on Twitter and throughout the internet and things like that, man.
Yeah, not many places. You can find me at the John LaPresto. Last name is LaPresto. And then I do dynasty rankings for you guys on Fantasy Six Pack.
Oh.
And then you will find me in lots and lots of Scott Fish mocks. And on the you can probably find me in the FS or SFBX hashtag on Twitter. It's probably
you are very active on Twitter. I do know that, so that's good. I like that, man.
Yeah,
and your dynasty rankings are good, so check those out. They may have a little lag time updating here in the near future because I don't know if you want to share the news, but Mini
LaPresto number 2 is coming in any day now.
Yeah, so there might be a little lag in the dynasty rankings updates.
Yeah,
I'm sure you will get to them as soon as you possibly can.
Get them in now.
Man. Glad you could come to us because I know it's any minute now, right?
So. Yeah, I mean, literally, I may have had to go.
Yeah. I had Jonathan Chan on deck, man. It was like, dude, you're jumping in. He was ready to go.
Yeah.
So kudos to him. But all right, man, thanks for coming on. We will check you out next time.
Cool.
Before we close it out, AJ, I do want to just congratulate Chris one more time. Chris Wilcox. He's actually on the comments here. He's chatting away with us on Periscope. So congrats to him. I will be sending his email over to Football Guys, and hopefully you get your information from them in the next few days. I'm not sure how long it's going to take them, but they will contact you. So again, for everybody who did not win, we will have more contests, 3 more contests in the next 3 weeks. And you can sign up. It's going to be different. We're going to make different things. We don't want the same thing every week. We want to have some fun with this. So hopefully you guys enjoyed this week. We did reading the stories we got. So it was a good time. So all right, man. AJ, you got anything else to add?
Yeah, next week's contest is best mustache and Hawaiian shirt on a podcast.
Oh, Jesus, do not listen. AJ.
Screenshots.
No, we're done. Cue the music.
Just kidding.
He literally did. Okay, cool. All right.
Way to go, Joe.
Appreciate it, buddy.